Good. Got pins and everything, cross pins, lynch pins. Yep. Just got to hook up the hydraulics now. So for my simple mind, I just put red on the right. Okay. I need to get some shorter hoses too, don't I? This is a little overkill. I have to measure for those and replace those at some point. Curl to be pulling it back, and dump and down, just like on your 3-point, you push it forward. I wanted that to be the same, where they're, either dumping the bucket or pushing the 3-point down, and then lifting the 3-point would be pulling back, and then curling the bucket would be pulling back as well. So okay, so that's with the 3-point in its highest position. And there's my dump angle. So unless the dirt is just like muddy or sticky, this doesn't turn over. But most of the dirt should slide out is my guess. I don't know, 45-degree angle. Now, I do have some adjustability. I can lift this higher by putting this pin right here, but that really doesn't help because it's not hitting the ground. Okay, so if I move this pin to right here, that should increase the dump angle a little bit. If I move it up here, it'll shallow the dump angle, right? So if I put it here, it'll increase the dump angle, make it dump further. But it'll also mean when I do rotate it around to curl it, it won't curl up as far. So kind of a trade-off there. But the rule is, if you can't make it perfect, you make it adjustable. And that's what I did. I tried to make it adjustable here and here. So this adjustment will allow me to be able to drop the bucket down lower to the ground. And if I put it up here, it'll sit even lower on the ground if I'm trying to cut deeper or dig something out deeper. I don't know. Not cut. I shouldn't be cutting with this. And then if I want it higher up with my 3-point all the way down, I could put the 3-point right there. Okay. And last thing, here's my full curl angle, which is probably way more than I need. So maybe putting that pin down in the bottom would be better. Let's go try it out and see. Okay, you're asking, why in the world would you build a tractor scoop for a 3-point when you have a bucket? And that's a good question. So what I'm trying to do is double my dirt carrying capacity. My wife has been asking me for years to dig this pond out. So it's really not very big. It looks big, but the actual hole is only maybe 15 feet in diameter. And so she wants me to dig it out this way. We have this big pile of dirt here that obviously came from the pond. This has been sitting here for over 10 years because we've had the property 10, 11 years now. And so it's pretty compact. So what I'm going to do is loosen it with the loader, just drive into it with the loader, kind of loosen it up, then we'll spin it around and we'll back into it with that tractor bucket. And then we'll see how much more I can haul. So I'm hauling dirt from here over to that greenhouse, which is behind the tractor barn right there. That sort of gold horizontal piece, that's where the greenhouse is. I'm piling dirt around that. So it was either buy a dump truck, which I'd love to do, buy a dump trailer, which I'd also love to do, but that's several $1,000s, and this bucket was just a few $100s in steel. So in a couple days of work, maybe 3 days of work, 3 solid days. So it is cheaper. I don't know if it's really that much more beneficial, than just getting a dump trailer or a dump truck. I could probably buy a cheap dump truck for I don't know what. But this is going to be days and days and days and days of work. So this isn't something I want to rent a dump truck for, because I'm not seeing myself digging it out that fast with this small tractor. So that still looks okay. Welds still look okay. Nothing looks like it's spread there. Supports there. Everything held so far. Well, it looks like a lot of dirt. I don't know how big this bucket is compared to my front bucket. My front bucket's 6 feet wide. This is 5.5 feet wide. So 66 versus 72 inches. I know this bucket's longer than that bucket. So this may actually hold close to the same amount of dirt. This one's wider, but not quite as long. So the other one's probably like this long. So yeah. I don't know, I couldn't quite get it all the way full. But this will double my carrying capacity. About double it. Maybe a little more, maybe a little less. I don't know, let's see how deep this bucket is. 9, 18, so about 20 inches. 22 inches, 21 inches, and this bucket's definitely 30 inches here. 9, 18, 27, that's 30 inches. So, but again, it's not quite all the way full. All right, well, let's go dump it and see what it looks like. Okay, so obviously this isn't for high dumping, but at least it'll get the dirt over here, and then if I need to lift it up higher, I can use the loader to do that. So, it's funny, what happened back there is this had fallen down, and this went into dump mode, and I kept trying to pull it back, and it wouldn't come back because this little latch had fallen down and locked it forward. So, I'm gonna have to secure that back somehow. Let's go ahead and dump it though. I'm gonna move this forward. Gonna hit the ground, so that means we can come up with the 3-point a little bit more. Nope, that's maxed out. So we'll just pull forward a little bit here. Looks like it all dumped out. Let's see what it looks like. Well, it's a pile of dirt. Okay. Well, there's the 3-point bucket. And there's the loader. I don't know, I guess I could fill them both up with water and see which one holds more, but it's a done deal now. I'm not going to make it any bigger. I probably would have gone to 6 feet, but I needed that 30 inches left over for these ends. And I wasn't really sure how much 1/4 inch would hold. A lot of the buckets I looked at online are only made out of 3/16 inch steel, so I haven't measured that to see what that is. Obviously they've dimpled it here where to give it some reinforcement where they needed to. It has several bracings back here to give it strength, several bends in it that gives it strength. It has this, yeah, that's a square tube inside there behind this piece right here that they've rolled it around. So it's got a lot of reinforcement. This is right here. This is probably a hardened piece as well for cutting, which I don't have on this. That's why it's just going to be more of a scoop than a bucket, an actual digging bucket. Although I probably will abuse it at some point. Okay, well, not too bad. I'm not unhappy. So far, nothing's broken. Huh. It seemed to lift it okay. It didn't seem to struggle. So again, back on the subject of, do I buy a dump trailer, which I'd like to do, and I probably will eventually after this project's done, of course. That's usually when I buy things after I don't need them. Or a dump truck, a used dump truck. You know, several $1,000s, an extra motor to take care of, more hydraulics to take care of. I don't know. This doesn't move as much dirt at one time. I'm sure I could move more dirt, scooping it, dumping it into a trailer over and over, and then just driving over it and dumping it, and then scooping it up and putting it where I want it later. That would be faster and more efficient. But my wife's like, well, how many hours have you put on the tractor? I've had this tractor for 4 years now. It's got 200 hours on it. That's about 50 hours a year I'm putting on this tractor. I'm 50 years old right now, so if I drive this for another 30 years, whatever, you know, that's 1,500 hours, if I did the math right. 30 years times 50 hours. So this tractor should last 3,000 or 4,000 hours pretty easily. That's my hope. So even if I do put some extra time on it, 100 hours a year, 150 hours, 1 year, big deal, or another year I don't put hardly anything on it. If it lasts me till I'm 80, then, you know, I still haven't worn it out. And so does that justify the several $1,000s in a dump truck or a dump trailer? I mean, those things I could use for other things as well. The dump trailer especially. But right now, this is what the budget afforded, and this is what I'm going to try to make work. Okay. Okay, a little fuller this time. Okay, well, this is still early. It's promising, but it's still early. There's a lot of things that can still bend or twist, or it may require some ongoing repairs, but so far so good. It's a pretty full bucket. Can't complain about that. So the loader I can put pretty low down to the ground as I drive. This, I'd like to have it lower to the ground as well, just so my center of gravity doesn't get upset so much. I'd like to have it lower, but I have pretty flat ground to drive across, so maybe I shouldn't worry too much about it and just be happy. Had a little difficulty dumping it onto that pile, so I kept having to pull forward and pull forward. And that may be the drawback of making the bucket too long. It needs to be short so it can rotate all the way and not hit the ground, especially if you're on uneven terrain, because the 3-point can only lift it so high. Now, if I put the 3-point lower arms into this one, it'll lift it higher, and that's why I tried to make that adjustable, because I can't make it perfect, so I'm going to make it adjustable. So we'll put it in those lower ones, maybe that'll lift it higher, and of course the other thing that's going to do is increase the angle of my upper link from like this to like this. It's not going to be very much, it's going to be 4 inches or so, but still. I think the biggest stress on this is when I'm backing up. I have the bucket down and I'm backing up like this. Most of the stress is on those lower control arms. So as I back up and I hit something here and it pushes the bucket down here, it's pushing this way, trying to rotate this piece like that. So it's trying to pull this away on the upper link. So, and I also have the hydraulic cylinder there to help with strength there. So maybe that's not that big of a deal. Yeah, there's some adjusting I might have to play with. Some adjusting I'm gonna have to do. So it basically doubles my trip load though. Look at that. So that's a little wider. This one's a little taller out here, but yeah. Okay. So far, so good. All right, so I just sprayed the bottom down with phosphoric acid with the Osfo. I'd done everything else, the top, the sides, the edges, the front edge here, but the bottom I hadn't gotten to because it was sitting on those dollies over there. Okay, so it's already starting to dry. It's getting tacky, and it's best to let it dry for 24 hours before you paint it. I'm going to keep this outside as long as I can till this evening. Hopefully it won't rain on it. The mountains are getting cranky over there. But I'd like to let it dry as long as possible. Go ahead and set it back on those dollies, roll it back in the garage, let it dry overnight. And then paint it at a later date. I've still got a little bit more welding to do. But it looks like the edge held up pretty well. There is a tiny bow in it. Yeah? Can you see it? Maybe that's coming out in the camera. There's a tiny, tiny bow in it. I don't remember if that was there before or not. I started to buy 3/16, and when I was down there picking out the steel, I talked myself into quarter, and I'm kind of glad I did. It was a little more expensive. I can't remember, $40 more for the sheet or $60 more for the sheet. It wasn't a whole lot more for the sheet, but obviously that's not going to bend because that's a hardened edge there. It's nice and straight, and it's really thick. That's got to be half or maybe 3/8. Okay. All right, so far I don't see where anything's pulled apart or pulled off. It makes some creaking sounds here and there, which I suspect is normal since I just have bushings and I don't have a lubricated joint. That would be nice to have lubricated joint right here and at the bottom. But pins are going to be wear points, I guess, and that's just the asking price. Let's go look at the piles of dirt. Okay, so this was 4 trips, loader, 3-point tractor bucket, and I don't know, it may just be the way it's piled, but it almost looks like the 3-point bucket's carrying a little bit more than the loader. I'm trying to get them both as full as I can, so. You know, it's not going to dump very high. So, and my bucket's so long that it can't, if I set it on top of that pile, it won't dump out. Even with my 3-point all the way at the highest point, I may be able to get a couple more, 3 or 4 inches out of it more if I adjust those lower links down to the bottom. I'll have to experiment with it and see, but I don't mind dumping it on the ground like this, and then I'll just whip around with the bucket every 3 or 4 loads, and with the loader bucket just scoop it up and pile it where I want it to go. So yeah, all right, so that's 4 trips. I can't be unhappy with that. Otherwise that would be 8 trips basically to bring that much dirt in.